We've looked at the relational stages model that Mark now proposes. And for some individuals, they would say that's not the best way to explain relational dynamics, that we don't really go linearly up that and come down, that it's not as clean of that real life relationships are not that predictable. So they have come up with a relationship or a model that states it's possible for a relationship to have attributes of both coming together and coming apart at the same time. Then maintenance or maintaining that relationship is about managing these competing goals or tensions. And they'd refer to these coming together and coming apart as dialectical tensions. That is, conflicts that arise when two opposing or incompatible desires exist simultaneously in a relationship. So it's pulling and pushing at the same time. Several dialectical forces have been identified that make successful communication challenging within an interpersonal relationship. And then the table in the book, table 9.1, summarizes that we experience these tensions, dialectical tensions, both internally within the relationship and then externally with those outside of the relationship as we interact with them. So the first dialectical tension then is integration versus separation. So we seek out involvement with others. We do. It's part of what we want. It's a human desire for affection. It's part of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. But at the same time, we are unwilling to sacrifice our entire identity to even the most satisfying relationship. So the conflicting desires for connection and independence, for integration versus separation, are embodied in this integration-separation dialectic. Sociolinguist Deborah Tannen put it this way in terms of analogy. It's like two porcupines trying to get through a cold winter. So they huddle together for warmth, but their sharp quills prick each other, so they pull away. But when they get cold, they have to keep adjusting their closeness and distance to keep from freezing and from getting pricked by their fellow porcupines. So we need to get close to each other to have a sense of community, to feel we're not alone in this world, but we need to keep our distance from each other to preserve our independence, our sense of self. So internally within the relationship, the struggle shows up in the connection autonomy dialectic. We want to be close to others, but at the same time, we seek independence. Some of the most common reasons for relational breakups involve the failure of partners to satisfy one another's needs for connection. We hardly spend any time together. But other relational complaints involve excessive demands for connection, where you feel like you're being suffocated. Too much time. So, research suggests that in heterosexual relationships, romantic relationships, men often want more autonomy and women typically want more connection and commitment. Now, mobile devices can help toward that. It certainly can help create a connection autonomy dilemma. In some ways, the frequent interaction during the day via cell phone can be a means of building intimacy in a romantic relationship. But at the same time, receiving too many texts and calls may feel imposing or even smothering, and it becomes a source of conflict for many couples and may require some negotiation of rules as to when one can text or call. The tension between integration and separation not only operates internally, it operates externally. So in the inclusion-seclusion dialectic, a relational pair now must reconcile a desire for involvement with others outside the relationship and time together within the relationship. Okay, keep that in mind. So it does operate it externally. The second relational dialectical tension is that of stability versus change. This dialectic acknowledges that stability is an important need in relationships, but too much stability can lead to feelings of staleness or boredom. The predictability novelty dialectic describes how this operates within a relationship. How predictable is your partner, or how novel are they? None of us wants to be completely predictable, certainly. And yet at the same time, we don't want to be that different so that somebody might say, you're not the person that I've married. Partners can know each other too well, and if they do know each other too well, it brings about a staleness to the relationship. That's that's internally. Now, externally, the conventionality uniqueness dialectic captures the challenges that people in a relationship face when trying to meet others' expectations while being true to themselves. Now, this is outside of the relationship. So, stable patterns of behavior do emerge that enable others to make useful judgments about the couple, such as their happy family or their dependable organization. But those blanket characterizations can often stifle people in relationships who may sometimes want to break away from the expectations that others hold of them. The third dialectical tension is expression versus privacy. A reminder again that disclosure is one characteristic of interpersonal relationships and growth. Yet along with the drive for intimacy, we have an equally important need to maintain some space between ourselves and others in terms of what they know about us. So these sometimes conflicting drives create the expression privacy dialectic. The internal struggle between expression and privacy shows up in the openness closedness dialectic. So what you do in an intimate relationship, when a person you care about asks an important question that you don't want to answer: do you think I'm attractive? Are you having a good time? What's my problem? Your commitment to the relationship may compel you toward honesty, but your concern for the other person's feelings and a desire for privacy may lead you to be less completely honest. Now, the same conflicts between openness and privacy, in terms of sharing what's on your mind, operate externally in the revelation concealment dialectic. So if somebody asks you about somebody externally, a third party asks you about how your relationship is going, do you reveal? Are you honest, or do you conceal? So how do you manage these dialectical tensions then? There's certain strategies for managing them. So in the face of conflicting desires, some relational partners choose denial. They just deny. They pretend to themselves and one another that the conflicts don't exist. That, of course, doesn't work. Compromising is another unsatisfying approach. The couple caught between the conflicting desires for predictability and novelty might settle for a lifestyle that is neither as predictable as one wants, nor as surprise-filled as the other seeks. May not be an ideal outcome, but it might work. Other communicators might alternate, choosing one end of the dialectical spectrum at some times and the other end on different occasions. So they'll work that dialectic depending on where they are in the relationship itself. A more rewarding approach is to accept and even embrace opposing desires. Realizing that that those desires are in essence good for the relationship, because it leads to more of a healthy relationship. That conflict is not necessarily negative or bad, but it can lead to growth in the relationship itself. Another constructive way to manage opposing desires is by reframing them, reinterpreting the events. Realizing that the secrets your partner keep makes them a little bit more mysterious and exciting, rather than seeing it as them holding out on you. Finally, it can be wise to reaffirm the fact that dialectical tensions will never disappear. All right, so don't try to make them go away. Reaffirming communicators accept and even embrace the challenges that they present and realize that they are means of growth in their relationship.